Hello, everybody. I'm Tony Gillespie Weaver Jr., and this week we will be talking about our 5 things that you can do to learn more about somatic symptom disorder as well as dissociative disorder. And so, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, so for our agenda, we'll talk about a quick introduction to dissociative disorders and somatic symptom and related disorder. I've got a couple of videos that'll be keyed up for that. And then we'll talk about a couple of article references that I have, and then some online resources and workshop training where you can gain more information. Last, the community and national level advocacy efforts that I've looked up here that we can kind of take a look at as well. So first thing we're going to do here is look at dissociative identity disorder. And this portion came right out of the APA on page 291. That dissociative identity disorders are characterized by a disruption of and/or discontinuity in the normal integration of consciousness, memory, identity, emotion, perception, body representation, motor control, and behavior. And then the last thing here we'll talk about here, and then after that we'll go to the videos and transition real quick, is somatic symptom and related disorders. And one of the interesting things I saw that they share a commonality of distress and impairment. And I kind of keyed in on this because this is something that soldiers kind of deal with, and that's why it kind of took my interest. But let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of these videos.
Dissociative identity disorder, which was formerly called multiple personality disorder, describes cases where two or more distinct personalities or distinct identities seem to exist within a single body. And both of these identities have some kind of influence on that person's thoughts or behaviors. And these identities are distinct from one another. They have their own mannerisms. They can have different emotional responses. And there can sometimes even be physical changes, and I'm going to put physical in quotes here, because I don't actually mean that there are changes in body parts in any way. But there have been some cases where researchers have described that the distinct identities have different handedness. So one identified as being left-handed and the other identified as being right-handed.
Now, we're not going to go through all of the videos. I'm going to leave that up to whenever you have time to look through some of the videos here. But, I just wanted to play just a couple of seconds of each of these videos to kind of give us a clearer picture of what these disorders, what it means. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the somatic symptom and related disorders.
Somatic symptom disorder, which used to be called somatization or somatoform disorder, involves having physical symptoms that aren't explained by any known physical or mental disorder. In other words, symptoms that can't be explained. That said, individuals aren't faking the symptoms. These symptoms are real and often made worse by the fact that they can't be scientifically explained. And this is pretty different from situations where an individual with a factitious disorder might fake an illness or injury in order to get attention. The diagnosis requires that individuals experience some set of unexplained physical or somatic symptoms for at least 6 months. The symptoms experienced by individuals with this disorder, though, can be incredibly varied. Everything from pain to gastrointestinal problems to sexual symptoms.
So that's just a real quick introduction before we start getting into some of the other documents that I have here. And so what I looked at is a couple of different articles, and usually I print them out and I kind of talk through them a little bit. But just for the sake of time, because this is kind of a short video, I just wanted to just kind of highlight some things. All right, so I looked at 2 articles. One was for the dissociative identity disorder. And it's interesting that this article talks about how DBT is used for borderline personality disorder. And so the folks here, that did this particular article and did this particular study wanted to utilize dialectical behavioral therapy as a means to treat those who have been diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder. And so now let's move down here to the somatic symptom disorder. Now, here's the thing about this particular article. What it does is it talks about, it's really more informative than it is. It's informative about something that soldiers deal with, and it doesn't talk as much as about a treatment plan. But because I am a soldier and I do, like to come across things that'll be helpful in the future, for myself and then other counselors, I like to take a look at some of these articles. So I may have to take a hit on this for it not being necessarily an article that talks about treatment. However, it is an article that is informative. So now I've got a few online resources. For the most part, I use Psychology Today, the National Alliance for Mental Illness. I use APA, and I use them to kind of get some additional resources that can talk about some of the things we're doing. So for the somatic symptom disorder as well as a dissociative disorder, these were a couple of good articles that I saw. So let's just take a look real quick. And so here you kind of look, and it talks about dissociative identity disorder. It's going to give you a definition, and sometimes they give you the definition that's found in the DSM-V, and sometimes they give you another definition. But then we go through the symptoms. You can go through the cause and the treatment as well, and so that's for that one. All right, so the APA talks about somatic symptom disorders, and it talks about it gives, I think, a nice clear kind of definition of what somatic symptom disorders are, and then you can kind of go through the diagnosis, you can go through the treatment, you can kind of look at some of the other related disorders. All right, so in looking at some workshops, I ran across the International Society for the Study of Trauma and Dissociation. They actually have a training program that is set up to get after both post-traumatic stress as well as dissociative disorders. So see training events. Then we're going to go down to professional training programs. All right, we'll go through course descriptions. And when you go down to course descriptions, here we are. So it talks about, here's a level 1 adult training course where it talks about trauma. And then when you go into your level 2 of this particular program, it goes into complex trauma to dissociative disorders. And then for somatic symptom disorder, this is a resource here that's found. This particular organization was founded by some pharmacists, and they wanted to be able to provide the latest and greatest type of education on pharmacotherapy. But they also have courses that are laid out. And this is one of the courses here, Somatic Symptom Disorder, Battle of the Brain versus Body. All right, so we're kind of getting to the very end here, and there was some community level advocacy efforts that I saw out there, as well as some national level advocacy efforts. And so there's a website here called Therapy Den. And I know I've had it keyed up. And so under here, you can see kind of Atlanta therapists that specialize in dissociative disorders. And then when we go to somatic symptom disorder, there's actually a place here off of Whitesville Road in Columbus, Georgia, Southeast Regional Pain Center. They're one of the advocates here for somatic symptom disorder. All right, so now let's go to our national level advocacy efforts for dissociative disorder. I thought that this was very interesting as a national effort, again, coming from the National Alliance on Mental Illness, is that they have a 1-800 helpline. And then for the somatic symptom, and again, there's times where I just want to kind of focus on military folks if it's something that's, pretty powerful for getting assistance with military. So here is a organization called Open Arms that provides assistance to veterans and families for counseling, especially, well, not especially with, but with things like anxiety, depression, somatic symptom disorder. And they have a 1-800, 24-hour 1-800 hotline that can be utilized, that can help, family members and working through this. All right, I think that'll be all for the day. If you all have any questions or anything, please feel free to drop them down in the discussion, and I'll try to answer them the best I can. Thanks, and have a great weekend.